Una de las zonas fronterizas con Azerbaiyán y también con el Nagorno Karabakh, de hecho es la puerta de entrada al corredor de Lachin, es la ciudad de Goris, a la cual me dirijo ahora. Bueno, después de 4 horas en la marrutka he llegado a Goris y ahora es tarde, son las 7:30 de la tarde, así que será mañana por la mañana cuando intentaré llegar a la frontera con Azerbaiyán y con el Nagorno Karabakh. Cosas a destacar de Goris, bueno, hay bastante presencia militar, era de esperar, ya que este es el último núcleo de población grande antes de llegar a la frontera con Azerbaiyán y sobre todo al corredor de Lachin, pero hay presencia militar no solo armenia, sino también se ven algunos peacekeepers rusos. Se ven bastantes por la calle y mañana también intentaremos hablar con alguno de ellos si se prestan. Al día siguiente la presencia militar en Goris sigue siendo muy abundante, especialmente del ejército ruso, tanto de las fuerzas de paz, que son las encargadas de vigilar la frontera, como del servicio de seguridad ruso, el FSB. Todos ellos se muestran reticentes a hacer comentarios sobre el bloqueo. Я журналист из Испании. Я делаю репортаж о блокаде. Вы знаете, если блокада или дорога доступна будет открыта? Нет? Вы пойдете в Карабах. Вы знаете, как их блокада открыта или не открыта? Los únicos que pueden entrar y salir del bloqueo en Artsakh son los trabajadores del Comité Internacional de la Cruz Roja, a que ahora mismo en Goris entran en supermercados y compran alimentos y suministros para llevarlo dentro del bloqueo. Al ser el único servicio de ayuda con autorización para cruzar el bloqueo, los trabajadores del Comité Internacional de la Cruz Roja no tienen permiso para hablar con la prensa, pues no quieren que su autorización sea revocada por las partes que mantienen el bloqueo. Para tratar el aspecto sanitario, Haikuji, que ha trabajado en los meses del bloqueo en la zona de Goris, nos explica los proyectos de su organización y el trabajo que han hecho durante este tiempo.
So my name is Haikuhi. So I'm a clinical and forensic psychologist by trade. I did that for about a decade in France. And then I moved to Armenia after the war, the 2020 war, and co-founded an NGO here called OKNI. It's the hoodie that I'm wearing. And we basically create solutions for amputees to empower them to have more fulfilled lives. So we do prosthetic covers that are 3D printed. We work on bionic prosthetics, and we do a lot of physiotherapy and mental health care. When we started the project, at least when we were preparing it, we had assumed that by the time we got there, the corridor would be open. So it was going to be something somewhat different, because it was going to be a lot of like emergency response. Like, okay, now you have this person, you have this child, you have this elderly, you have this, what do we do? Whereas we got there and we realized, first of all, the corridor hadn't opened, and there's clearly there's no sign that it's going to open anytime soon, unfortunately. And then we realized that there's so much of the trauma that's been carried, especially since the 2020 war, that has been carried onto this, and like it's so many layers of despair and pain. And so working with these frontline workers was a lot of listening and understanding, and obviously giving all of these things that we had prepared for them, but it was a lot of helping the helpers, because everyone's just so exhausted. It's so sad. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a story. And it's just layer upon layer of pain. One of the things I noticed the most, but I think it's my bias because of the other project, is diabetes patients. Insulin is really hard to come by in Artsakh currently, and I think that's the one thing that they'll need the most once they go to Goris to be taken care of. A lot of trauma care for children. I think that is another huge deal. We need to really, these kids are just so traumatized. It's not a human situation. It's not a normal situation. They spent major holidays stuck, not being able to leave. It's not so much that they want to leave, it's home. Why would you want to leave your home? It's the fact that you're trapped. So it's really hard for children to understand. Freedom is a very complex term for humans. It's a complex thing to understand as a human being. As an adult, it's complicated. So imagine a child. I think, trauma response for children, making sure that the elderly are well taken care of, because a lot of heart medication is lacking. Nutrient-wise, a lot of food is lacking. In certain parts of Artsakh, we could actually consider there to be a famine. Like the legal term, like the legal definition for famine, there's currently 3 cities in Artsakh who experience that. Now they're still in crisis mode. They're still stuck, right? But once it's done, there's going to be so much to unravel. It's a Pandora's box that once we open, we can't close again. So once the corridor is opened and everyone is healthy-ish, I guess, taking care of as much as possible, then it's going to be the long-term process of making sure that if and when this does happen again, or it's a similar thing happens again, the trauma won't be as present as it is. Because if you still have that pain inside of your brain and it just keeps on happening, it just gets worse and worse, and it's more and more painful and harder to deal with. So we don't want anyone we want to make sure that we avoid as much chronic suffering as possible.
En Goris, por su cercanía con el territorio de Artsakh, los habitantes de la ciudad conocen la situación al otro lado del bloqueo. Uno de ellos nos habla sobre la situación en el Nagorno Karabakh.
Азербайджан, да. Это неправильно.
Неправильно.
Да, конечно, неправильно.
Люди
Он не может дорогу закрывать. Не имеет права. Все фалакерки голодные уже люди. Трудно там уже, плохо там. Ну, еле-еле все талон, да, продуктов, сахара, мяса, ничего нет.